Welcome back to another episode, guys. As always, we are beyond proudly sponsored by 502 Media. We have Mellissa March on the podcast today, and there's a lot to dive into with her story and her journey. So let's just jump right into it. Hello, Mellissa.
Hey girl, how's it going?
Good. I love how it's so lighthearted, even though your story is pretty heavy.
It is. Yeah, it's
So
definitely heavy.
let's just dive right into it. Where do you want to start?
Oh, I mean, I am a person who has grown up in a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I had alcoholics for parents growing up. I had to kind of navigate how to not live a life like that and not live in trauma my whole life. So I dug in deep I started when I was about 12 years old. I probably am autistic, have a, special interest in psychology and therapy, and really dove into that hard. And I started working on that early. From there, I moved up and out of my hometown, had to leave that place. Met
Felt.
my partner. Yeah, yeah. Met my partner. We started a company together. We run and build festivals, concerts, audio, video lighting. We do all of the design and infrastructure. We put a lot of effort into um, raising awareness for employee rights in our industry. We don't have a lot of rights. There aren't a lot of regulations for our industry. So we've
Mm-hmm.
always been really, really heavy into, the education side of that as well, in terms of, educating the public, but also educating the people in the industry, and allowing people to grow. And about 5 years ago, I got diagnosed with stage 4 terminal metastatic cancer. Well, they didn't know it was metastatic right at first. I've been through probably, I think, 5 or 6 surgeries at this point. I've done 2 massive heavy rounds of chemo. Those each take about 5 months for me. Beyond that, I have done internal radiation, external radiation. I have done immunotherapies, anti-angiogenics, which is, similar to an immunotherapy, but it works on different pathways. I've really done it all. I've got a 17-year-old son who is struggling with his own mental health as well. I won't really talk to that, but I can talk
Right.
to, how I handle that, and which is really not. No, I'm kidding.
We're doing our
Um,
best over here.
yeah, we're staying alive, and that's good today.
Mhm.
That's good today. Woke up. But yeah, I think that's really the gist of it. I have 2 little puppies. We found them on the side of the road a few months ago. They were dumped by breeders. That's a whole other wild story in its own.
Don't get me started.
They're Shepskis, and they're 6 months. So the
Oh
fact that they are
boy.
not going crazy right now in the background is, again, a win for us.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's a fantastic day overall. Let's
Yeah,
let's kind of dive into, because it sounds so simple on paper to say
of
that,
course.
grew up with alcoholic parents and you just decided, I'm not going to have that kind of a lifestyle. I'm not going to, I'm going to move away from my hometown.
Mhm.
But you and I both know it is not that simple. It is far
No.
more complex. So can you walk me through what that, I guess, for lack of a better term, journey was like, and the
Yeah.
complications of leaving everything that you had known and all of the toxic habits and everything to create a better life for yourself?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of parts in that.
Yeah.
I grew up in a physically abusive lifestyle,
Hmm.
mentally abusive, whether intentional or not.
Right.
And I think I too was going down that path. I
Hmm.
was 17 and partying all the time. I had moved out because I didn't want to be at home anymore. Ended up getting pregnant when I was 20, and that was an eye opener. That changed everything for
Right.
me. And um, I had already had one abortion, and that hit me. That hit me pretty hard.
Right.
Um, And this time I had done everything right. I was on the birth controls. I used the protection. I did everything the right
Mm-hmm.
way, and I still got pregnant. So I really decided that that was something that maybe I was just supposed to do. And
Right.
I went through with that, and into my pregnancy, my ex, who at the time was a good friend of mine, I had this habit of, dating my friends. They become friends first and then we date.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time that served me poorly is in the relationship with my son's biological father.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great person. He had the ability to become a really great person, and he ended up getting in pretty hard into drugs. He had always been, a recreational user. We were young and dumb. We
Right.
all were. But when I was about 5 months pregnant, he got too hard into that. And he came home one night and started beating me in my sleep while I was about 5 months pregnant.
Mm.
Um, I haven't really told many people that. Most people don't know that part of my story, but I got up and left that day. I'm not the type of person to take that. I've dealt with abuse and trauma my whole life.
Right.
And that's not something I'm going to live with. So, I left that day. Never looked back. I was not the one to, turn around and say, okay, let's try and make this work. No, you hit
Right.
me, you put my child in danger. That's done. We're done.
Right.
Um, as I was going through court and custody and all of that, things got ugly. My family at one point turned against me. My own mother called CAS on me, Child and
Mm.
Family Services here. I'm not sure what it's called there for you guys, but it's Child and Family Services.
Right.
And she told them that I was not only not feeding my child, but that I was putting I think he was like 4 months or maybe 6 months at the time, baby in the car without a car seat.
Mm.
So the worker shows up at my house, and we were walking out the door. So he's sitting in a car seat on the ground, and she knocks on the door and she says, "Oh, this is why I'm here." And she's like, "Is that your baby?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "He's not underfed." And I was like, "No." I had no idea at this point. Because they don't
Yeah.
tell you that they're coming. They
Right.
show up, right?
Right.
So I didn't even know who she was at this point. She hadn't even like told me. And she was like, "Oh, that's your baby? Like, he's got cellulite."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh, roly poly babies. My
like,
favorite.
yes, he does. That's a little rude. Who are you? And
Right.
she told me what happened, or who she was and why she was there. And she's like, "And I assume that because he's sitting in a car seat, you're not about to take that baby out of that car seat and then put him in the car as you're leaving, right?" And obviously she never came back. But
Right.
that's just one of those things that I was like, this is not the place for me to live. I don't have a good support system here. I
Mm.
don't have the people in my life who will encourage me to be better for myself, to be better for my son, to grow and evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And so my cousin was living in a town called London, Ontario. She was going to the University of Western Ontario, went there to hang out with her one weekend, met my now husband. We became friends. And before any of that kind of stuff happened, I realized that London was a place I loved. I loved the vibe. I loved the community. It was kind of a small town feel in more of a bigger town.
Right.
And I grew up in, the Niagara Falls. There were no tourists in London, which was
Yeah.
a huge win for me because I had always worked on, Clifton Hill. My entire life was tourists and
Mm-hmm.
just people, expecting everything from you.
Yeah.
So I really decided that I needed to be somewhere better. And London had a community that was more my lane.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea of growth there, and the idea of really becoming your best version of yourself. It's a lot easier to see it there in, in the Niagara region. You're met with people who just want to meet status quo. They grow up, they get a job, they live miserably, and then they die. And that wasn't the life I wanted.
Right.
That wasn't who I was to my core. I always wanted more. I always wanted to be involved in the world of art, and I didn't know how to. I wasn't as well educated as I could have been or should have been. I didn't have parents that exposed me to new things. Don't get me wrong, they tried their best. They weren't terrible people all the time. But that's just kind of who they were. They weren't
Right.
about growing. They've never been about improving. They would never go to therapy. Um, it's not on their list of
Right.
priorities, and that's fine for them, but that's not the life I wanted to live. So I really had to look at what was going to be best for me and what was going to be best for my son. And I had already started a community in London. I was going there every couple of weekends and spending time with the people there and really getting to know the area. And I decided that I was just gonna up and move. I guess it wasn't that simple. Nothing is
Right.
that simple. I had a custody agreement, so I had to notify my ex, and it's not like he was even in the picture, so it didn't really matter, but I had to take all of these steps and measures to really decide whether or not this was going to be the right move for me.
Right.
And I had to really look at the world as I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to give my son the best life, I needed to be away from the negativity. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. It doesn't sound simple, and it wasn't simple, but in hindsight, it was the simplest thing I've probably done in my life.
Right. No, that makes complete sense. And a lot of people don't realize that sometimes in order to move forward, you have to literally move away.
Yeah,
You know,
100%. Best thing I've ever done,
but
honestly.
it sounds it.
I'm kind of a little bit like I'm back a lot closer to that area now, because I think as you grow and as you age and as you move through these therapies, you really start to care less about the influence that those
Right.
people and those things have on your life. They don't matter as much when you can fully see and understand that they aren't changing because they're not ingrained to change, they're not ingrained to grow. It becomes not your problem anymore. It
Yes.
becomes a thing that exists and is there. And if you choose to have those people in your life, then by all means, that's your choice. But you have to accept them as they are, just the same way
Yep.
you have to accept yourself. And for me, I'm just not willing to live a life with people who hold me back. So
Mm-hmm.
I have distanced myself from pretty much my entire family at this point. My husband has done the same with his whole family. They are also not great, have not been great to us. Tried to sue us for hundreds of thousands of dollars because we didn't come home for Christmas one year. It's it's just a wild ride. You cannot change what other people will do. You can
Right.
only deal with how you react to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we just don't deal with it. We kind of leave it off to the side, let them do their thing, and we just live our lives and grow at every point. I just got back into therapy. I mean, not that I had been out of it for a long time, but
Right.
I had a therapist who wasn't great, wasn't really helping. So, left. Now I'm back in it. But the intention is to just keep growing, and if the people around me aren't going to do that, then that's on them.
Yeah. That is something that I know that I personally have struggled with, because I'm like, no, I want you to come with me. And not everybody wants to come with you on that growth and self-improvement journey.
Yeah.
And those people that don't want to are all, oh, you think you're better than me. No, But also, like, I am choosing not to deal with XYZ at the
Yeah,
moment.
of course. It's not about being better or
Right.
superior. It's about if you're happy with where you are,
Yeah.
then why does my growth bother you?
Yep. I I heard a quote one time, and it's like, people doing better than you are never going to be jealous of you,
Yep.
and or, talk down to you or anything like that. And I'm just like, ooh, that's a good like piece. And I can't remember who said it, and it's gonna bug me,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was
I,
like
I know
something
the
that
one
just
you're talking
stuck.
about. I've heard it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just stuck. Like, that makes so much sense, because I know when I've talked to, like, newbie podcasters, I'm always like, no, do
Hmm.
the thing. Like, who cares? Because they're just starting. I've been in this for a couple years, and I'm not necessarily doing better than them, but I, have enough like life experience under my belt when
Yeah.
it
You've
comes to
experienced
podcasting
more.
that I'm like, no, do it. I'm never going to talk down to them about their choices. Like, here, learn some things so you don't have to go through the growing pains that I did. You'll go through your
Yeah.
own growing pains, but let me eliminate like two off the
Yeah.
bat.
I saw it's funny you say that because last night on Threads, I actually saw something very similar. Somebody had posted, an artist is never going to knock a beginner.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
never going to tell you your beginning steps aren't good enough. If you
Exactly.
try, if you put it out there, somebody who actually knows what they're doing, somebody who's actually been in it, they're not going to judge you. They're not going to
Right.
tell you that you can't do it. They're going to encourage you. And if you've built the right community, then you shouldn't have to worry about that anyways.
And that's the biggest thing, is building community, whether it's, doing better in a career or doing better for yourself. And I hate to quote my parents, because they always said this and it never made any sense until I was in my 30s, but you are who you surround yourself with.
Yep, 100%.
And I was always like, no, I can be different than them. And then I hit 30 and I have goals, and I'm like, nope, you are who
Nope.
you surround yourself with.
Doesn't that suck? I
Ugh.
always hate, there's a few things that my parents have said and they stuck with me and I'm like, you know what? Of all the things that you've said that don't stick, why is it, always just the one thing?
Yep. Yep, exactly. To take kind of a little bit more of a leap kind of into the last 5 years. Of
Yep.
course, you're going through this in the middle of COVID times, so extra fun. Um,
Yep.
what was it like for you to get that, not only stage 4, but terminal diagnosis?
So it kind of happened in steps. I didn't get that right away.
Right.
The way I was diagnosed was interesting. Let me hop back a hot second because it'll be worth it.
Right.
I am a person who has had abnormal PAPs my whole life.
Mm.
Since I was 16, I have always had to go back and get a second one, and then I've always had to get a biopsy. That
Oh,
has
those are
been my
so
life.
fun. Said no
Oh
one
yeah.
ever.
No, 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 no.
They're
So
the
every
worst.
since I was 16, so
Oh,
we're at like I don't know 20 years now.
oh,
So for about 3 years before, it might have been 4 or 5 years before I got diagnosed, um, the abnormalities were increasing. I was
hmm,
getting 3 to 8 biopsies every 6 months. Um, and it frustrates me to saying it out loud, but
right.
so my doctor kept getting negative results that, no cancer, this, that, and the other. And then, so COVID hits. So right before COVID hits, I'm supposed to have my most recent one in, I think it was like September or November, something like that. And it got rescheduled because there was an emergency or something like that.
Right.
Got rescheduled to middle of February. Um, I canceled that appointment because I was like, whatever, I'm gonna reschedule it for 2 weeks from now. I had work or something,
Right.
canceled that appointment. 2 weeks later, pandemic hits. Um, Everything gets canceled.
Right.
All my appointments didn't go back, but nobody was really concerned because they had they kept coming back negative anyway. So
Right.
she's like, like we'll get you in rotation and we'll get you in. So I guess it's 6 months after that,
Mhm.
October, November of 2020, I start hemorrhaging.
Oh my gosh.
And I hemorrhaged for 2 days. I called the doctors. We couldn't go into the emergency room at that point because everything was on complete lockdown. So the receptionist told me to, just watch it. And if it doesn't get better in the third day, then whatever. So, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody's lived through this. I just listened to them, right?
Right. I mean,
Hindsight is 2020. Hindsight is
right.
2020. I know I made poor decisions in this situation as well.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. You didn't know.
Exactly. So they booked me an appointment, but it's over the phone, and it's in January. So my doctor gets on the phone with me in January, and I tell her what's happened. And since then, I had another day of hemorrhaging. It was only the day or two before the phone call.
Mhm.
So she says, "Oh my God, they should have brought you in that day. Get in here tomorrow."
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's what I'm thinking. It's like, sorry, I'm not hemorrhaging enough for 2 days straight. Like,
Exactly.
let me just
Exactly.
hold out.
I will give her that amount of props. She did say to get me in, right away.
Right.
The rest of it, I do not give her any credit for.
Mm.
She, I get on the exam table and she says, "Mellissa, I can see the tumor with my eyes. There is no chance you don't have cancer." Like, okay. She's like, "I still have to do this biopsy. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll wait and see. Um, in my mind, the way she said it didn't sound like a sure thing. I'm
Yeah.
sounding way more matter of fact than she ever was. She was using things like 5% and 20% chance and this and that, and super low numbers. And everything she was explaining to me was just kind of blah. There was no
Yeah.
emergency in her voice. There was no let's get this done quickly. So she sent me to a different hospital. Oh, by the way, that biopsy she took, she still got a negative result on.
Holy
I did
shit.
not have cancer, according to her. She said, "I don't like this result because of what I saw. So I'm going to send you to an oncologist anyways.
Right.
They can do some more in-depth testing." This oncologist did one biopsy, and it's squamous cell carcinoma, 100% cancer. I probably had it for anywhere from 2 to 6 years.
Shit.
It could have been managed. So at the point that I got diagnosed, there was lymph node involvement,
Mhm.
but it was in such a small area that they weren't sure if it was metastatic yet. I wouldn't find out for another year and a half or so that it was metastatic because they have to go through all the tests. They have to go through all the treatments. They have to
Mhm.
do the work, see if it comes back. So, I did the radiation, I did the surgeries, I did all of the initial stuff, and, we wait and it comes back. So now I have to go into chemo. And then it had spread to my abdomen. It had spread to more lymph nodes. So again, like I think I had mentioned before, my body reacts really well to the chemo, or my cancer reacts really well to the chemo and to the treatments. My body does not. So I took it very hard. I almost expired a couple of times due to the treatments. So it was really hard for my husband and my son to literally watch me dying in my bedroom. I had nurses in and out of my house 4 times a day, giving me IV fluids. I was 96 pounds. I had lost, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a fairly small person, but I'm usually, 130 or so. So I had lost 35-ish pounds, and, I'm 5'6". So there's not a lot of places that can really
Yeah,
go
no.
from.
No.
Um, so we kind of took it day by day. We're in the middle of the pandemic. I couldn't have anybody coming to my appointments with me. And anybody who knows my husband, he's there. He will be there with me every step of the way. Like, he waited as close to the doors as he could so that he would be there the moment I had access to him or anybody else. I couldn't have anybody going to any of the treatments with me. Usually you can have somebody with you, but in the beginning, COVID, everything's locked down. So it was a really hard experience, I think, emotionally, because I'm also a person who has had sexual assault and I've been raped, and I've lived through those experiences. So having cancer in an area where you're already so incredibly vulnerable and you've already been traumatized it just makes it so much worse and so much harder. I would go into panic attacks. And then on top of that, I was kind of claustrophobic. So MRIs and CTs were a fucking nightmare initially. Now I've had so many, like, it's basically a nap. But I mean, well, no, that's not true. I still get nervous. I still get anxious, but it's way more manageable, now.
I'm honestly I'm never going to fit in the MRI machine, even though I do every single time, but I'm just like, are we sure it's going to fit?
Yeah. Are we sure this is not going to make me explode? And I only cry some of the times now.
Progress.
No, exactly. No, it's been a lot. I think initially being told that this was completely manageable was the thing that was the hardest to rectify in my mind. It's all the, if I had gone to a different doctor, would I have known sooner? If I had taken it more seriously and gotten to that one appointment, would I not be metastatic? Would I not be terminal now? If I had done something differently growing up, if I had dealt with my trauma more, if I had eaten differently. And I mean, I'm already a pretty healthy person, but I am also the type of person who carries all of that. And it's a lot. I think the worst part about it was having a child. What if I don't make it to his wedding? What if I don't see him graduate? What's he going to have to live with? How's he going to handle this? He's a mama's boy. Like, I mean, I don't want to tell his business, but like, I still tuck him in at night. And he's 17, our kids in this generation are very, very different than I was at 17, but I think part of that is because I almost died. I don't think he is a kid that wants to be tucked in, but I think it's, every moment I can hug my mom, I'm going to. And I think those things, and having a partner who is so dedicated and knowing what they would go through and knowing who their support system isn't, is the thing that bothered me more than me dealing with it. I'm not afraid to die. There's a lot of things I still want to do. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things I still want to experience, but my fear and my anxiety and my trauma around it is more for the people in my life than it is for me.
So having walked through all of that, are you comfortable talking about where you're at now with it?
Yeah, of course. I actually just had a scan a couple of nights ago, so I don't have the results of that yet. For the last year and a bit, have been on some immunotherapies and an anti-angiogenic. I go through for treatment every 3 weeks. Takes about a day, get hooked up to the IVs, spend a day in the hospital. Honestly, I get more headaches from the lights than I get side effects from this one now. I do get some migraines and I'm constantly in pain, but I mean, I had chronic pain before, so I mean, that's not really a big difference. So about a year ago, my cancer had grown back a little bit. Like I said, I react really well to treatment. So chemo really kills it efficiently, but it's metastatic, which means it's in the lymph nodes. Once it's in the lymph nodes, you can't really kill it at this point. Medicine is changing, and I'm really, really, really fucking lucky to have the team of doctors behind me that I do. My partner, before we went into production, he went to medical science school. So when we got diagnosed, we called a couple of his friends from childhood and from university, and it just so happened that some of them were leading gynecological oncologists.
Oh my
So
God, beautiful.
they gave me the tips of what direction to go that a lot of people aren't privy to. So we were really able to look at things from a science forward perspective. I also got a naturopath to work with me on side effects and those kinds of things. She's incredible. She's one of those people that's just so fucking brilliant. You don't even understand how they exist. She was a leading oncologist. Her dad got cancer, and she realized that she couldn't deal with his side effects because they're not trained to. So she went into naturopathic medicine, and now all she does is take care of oncology patients and their side effects and everything like that. She is all of the tips she gave me. Look at me. I'm pretty much translucent. I didn't burn once in radiation. I am still here because of this woman, and because of everything she did for me and everything that my husband's friends did for me. I had my cancer had grown back a bit about a year ago, so I went back on these treatments. We changed some things up, and as of my last scan, everything had reduced by about 20%.
That's huge.
Which is insane. At that point, we were looking for stability. We weren't expecting shrinkage. We were just hoping for stability. And now this time I just had a scan a couple of nights ago, so I don't 100% know where I'm at yet. I haven't gotten those results yet. I'm hoping for the best, obviously.
Right.
But if it's not, then we move on. We look for the next treatment. We're at a really great place in science for gynecological oncology. There's a lot of trials out there. There's a lot of new information and a lot of research going on.
Right.
And we have some access to research information that we wouldn't normally have. It's always been a goal of mine to kind of start raising awareness about that. And that's not something I've really started doing yet at this point, because honestly, I think a little bit of an imposter syndrome. I haven't cured my cancer. Who am I to speak on that? But I have lived through it. So
exactly.
I will at some point, but it's really about just showing people what is out there and what is available. If I hadn't gotten a second opinion, like if we had time to tell you my whole story with cancer, your mind would be blown. I've been abused physically by a doctor. I have been screamed at. I was told to give up and die. I was told, like, the words from one doctor were, do chemo or don't. It doesn't matter. You will be dead in 18 months. So I've seen it all. I have seen bad doctors. I have seen great doctors. I have seen bad research assistants. I have seen great research assistants. I really have the best of both worlds. I am 100% here because of science and technology. But I also know that, the natural health and side effects and managing that is really, really important. Yeah, I think I got off on a bit of a tangent on that
Not
one.
really.
But
no, this has all been pretty on point.
But yeah, I think that's just it. We don't, because my outcome is literally a 50-50 chance. I'm either going to react well to treatment and continue living, or I won't. So it's just a matter of moving forward and moving through that and helping as many people along the way as we can.
Yeah. You had kind of answered it, but I think a lot of um people would have done the opposite of what you did with a terminal diagnosis, which is just stop treatment, let things kind of happen, especially because treatment, like you were saying, can be incredibly dangerous. It can be
Yeah.
incredibly helpful, but also incredibly dangerous. Obviously, you're living for your husband, your son. How much of that is your how is that affecting your mental health with I can keep treating this, it's going to be the same outcome, but maybe I can just extend it a little bit more?
Um, that's a good question. I think initially I was really, really concerned about quality of life.
Yes.
In the beginning, it wasn't about how long I was going to live, it was how I was going to live. I never
Yes.
wanted to spend the last few years of my life in a bed with people taking care of me. I
Mhm.
didn't want my son to watch me wither away. And
Right.
but then that happened. And I think in the process of chemo, and I think realistically, after being told do chemo or don't, you'll be dead, I think that was the thing that was like, well, no, go fuck yourself.
Yes.
I have never been a
Yes.
person to lay down
Right.
and take that. And there were a few days before that happened, or right after that happened, before I decided to fight. And I
Mhm.
think my husband plays a big part of that, because when I was down in the dumps when she heard that, he got on the phone and he called everybody he knew, and he's like, "What do I do?"
Right.
Um, just so happens that one of the people that he called, and obviously I'm not gonna name names or anything like
Right.
that,
Absolutely.
happened to have an idea of who I was talking about, which is crazy because they don't
Someone's got a
even work in the
reputation.
same town. It's actually a little bit different. Turns out he was an advisor of her grant funding. And
Oh,
I don't know what happened. I'm sure nothing happened. But I got a call from her a couple days later, and a very, very elaborate apology as to why they were incorrect and how that behavior was, and that I should definitely do whatever I could to fight, and gave me a referral to a better doctor and all the things I had been asking for. So there was a
yeah.
lot of things that lined up that gave me the ability to fight for myself. And it was really the people in my life that gave me that the gumption to be able to move forward. I think one of the things that all of those people said, when my husband reached out to them, and it was crazy because they don't know each other. They all said basically the same thing with the exact same numbers. Um, Mindset and the desire to live is the only thing that matters.
Yep.
Obviously, it's not something that can be really researched,
Right.
but we all see about 70% of our patients that decide they're going to live past their, end date, do. Um, we've seen people with stage 1 that is completely treatable, and they've gone through all of the treatments, but because they believed they were going to die, they did.
Yeah.
And we've seen people with stage 4 metastatic cancer decide they weren't going to die and live for 25 years. And obviously,
Yeah.
there is still an element of, science and sickness,
Yeah.
and like there's obviously the physical qualities of the cancer that will be the determining factor of whether or not you live or die.
Right.
But I think there were definitely a few times when I was in that place where I was, a couple of hours from dying. And the only thing that kept me going was, no, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was on so much medication at one point. I was out of my mind. I didn't really know where I was or who I was. And I was given a very few days left. And so I looked at my husband and I said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die clear. Take me off all the medications, take
Yeah,
the IVs
100%.
out. I want to say what I need to say. I want to speak. I want to be. I want to, even if it's in my bed and by myself and, with just you guys, I want that to be clear. I think you deserve that and I deserve that. And I had been in bed at that point. I hadn't eaten a morsel of food in 18 days. I had eaten like a quarter of a cracker. I was on IVs. I was on medication, and he obliged. He took me off everything. He stopped giving me all of the medication. And I don't honestly have a lot of memory of this, but
Right.
I think it was like 12 hours later or something like that, maybe 24 hours later. I sat up and leaned against the wall, and I looked over and my husband's like blubbering, crying.
Oh.
And I'm like, what is your problem? Like, what's happening? What's happening? And he's like, Mellissa, you have not sat up in 3 weeks.
Oh.
You have like, you're sitting up right now. And I was like, I kind of want some soup. And he's like, I will get you everything you want. Like, what the fuck? And
Right.
I obviously didn't die. Coming off that medication was everything my body needed. And I didn't even know it.
Right.
The medication I was on was keeping me sick. It was keeping me not able to eat. I was constantly nauseous. I was constantly, I couldn't do anything. I
Right.
couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I couldn't think. I didn't know how I was feeling. And so that was a big, big change for me.
Yeah.
That obviously made all the difference. But it's been things like that that have happened along the way that I think were meant to happen, that were supposed to happen, that I needed to live through. And they've
Mm-hmm.
also changed the way I think about everything.
Yeah.
So many people, so many relationships through cancer crumble. And I am in tons of groups where women talk so horribly, they don't talk horribly about their husbands treat them horribly through the process of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have no support system. And I have had the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
I have had a partner that has been there through everything, every moment that he possibly could. And I think that changes the way you experience the thing.
They always say it matters who you marry.
Yeah.
And it's moments like that it matters who you marry.
Yeah.
Having a
Yeah.
baby, like going through a family illness, going through your own illness. It fucking matters who you marry.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, he had to take on everything. Like, I don't have a job. I own a business. I don't have a son. I have a son I homeschooled because we were in the middle of a pandemic, and I had started homeschooling the year before because that's what he needed at the time.
Yep.
So my partner had to take over his job, my job, parenting, taking care of the home, taking care of me. Like, the number of times that man had to literally clean me up is wild, because I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. And in all of that, he wouldn't not let me, I don't mean that like that, but like,
I know
he
what you
wouldn't let me go and live in a hospital
Yeah.
because I needed to be comfortable at home. So he took all of that on, and that was everything. That was the determining factor. I would not be alive without him, without his friends, without his input, without his drive to say, just try this thing one more time. If it doesn't work, you're dead anyways. Like, just try it one more time. And so we really built this off of, we turned it into a comedy. Now everything is, well, I'm not dead today, so let's, go and do this. It's, you have to laugh about it so you don't cry about it. And we're really good at being those people for each other.
Yeah. Well, also like the worst thing you could do is give a millennial cancer because we already came out with a shit ton of dark humor.
Right?
So now it's
Exactly.
just like even worse.
Yeah.
Now we're just
A lot of
funnier.
people don't get it. And I make so many morbid jokes, and people will just kind of shock stare at me sometimes because they don't know if they could laugh or if they should cry or how they should feel. But the morbid joking is the only thing that, will keep things light.
Look, what doesn't kill you makes you funnier, I suppose.
Exactly.
And it has not killed you yet. So therefore
Not yet.
You are very funny.
Exactly. And sometimes
on occasion.
Yeah, on occasion. I have some wit.
But hey, I've literally, the conversations you and I have had off camera, I am cracking up 9 times out of 10, and you know this. So.
I mean, this goes both ways. I think you are you're just one of those people that is so intelligent and funny and welcoming, and it's great talking to you. I have always had a lot of fun with you.
Well, yay. Well, our fun must unfortunately come to an end on the record.
Yeah.
Mellissa, thank you so much for being so open. And I should kind of wrap this by saying, you've been able to do all of these treatments. You don't live in the US, which is also kind of a contributing factor to not only the length of treatment that you can do, but also kind of the length of waiting on a few things.
Yes.
So there are pros and cons, but yes, like people listening being like, I couldn't afford to do all that. It's a different healthcare system where you're at. And I just want to be cognizant of that for people 100%. That may be listening. And there just wasn't a part to pop that in.
100%. And I should also note that I blew through hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings doing all of this. I had built my company to a point, or we had built our company to a point where we could do that.
Yes.
Now, if I go back down that hole, I've spent those savings the last 5 years. So I'm in a very different position than I was when I started this. And not everybody can do that, which is why anytime somebody reaches out and has questions, I give them everything I know, everything I've learned, everything I've been taught, everything my naturopath has given me, even. I share that information, obviously, with, huge red flags of don't do this if you don't know you can or you should.
Yeah.
But I also don't share, specific instructions or anything like that. But I try and be really open because of that. And if anybody ever has anything that they need help with, my DMs are always open. That's what I like to say, whether I sometimes take a while to get back, but I will share absolutely everything I can and all of the information I've gathered over the years to give anybody even one moment of a better experience through this.
1000%. And obviously we will have your Instagram linked below for people that want to keep following along with your story, or if they have questions, if they have any questions about the Canadian healthcare system and your experience with it. And, all of that. Mellissa, thank you again so much for coming on and talking through all of these very tough topics.
Thanks for having me. It was, it was a great time. It's been a lot that I've been wanting to share. And this is, just the first step to sharing that. And I hope to be able to help as many people along the way as I can. And if I can't, then, at least we had fun.
Right. Exactly. All right, guys, I will catch you again next week. And as always, stay hot and stay messy.
Cheers.